Hi everybody, welcome to this week's cooking lesson. I'm so glad you're taking the time to come and spend some time with us, and hopefully you learned how to make pancakes last week. I'm going to try something different this week. It's called a savory, kind of like a bread pudding or a strata if you want to call it that. But the cool thing about this is that it can be savory, so you can make it for dinner or lunch. It can be sweet, so you can make it for dessert. You can do lots of fun things with it, and it's a really good way to use up little extras that are in your fridge if you've got them. Use up some stale bread. It's really good if you use stale bread, and yeah, you can make it to suit yourself. Vegetarian, not vegetarian. Really, it's whatever you've got on hand. So the recipe that I wrote for you has got all kinds of different options, but today we're just going to do a bacon and cheese one. So you can see how that's done. I've got all my ingredients laid out. The fancy term for this is called mise en place, which is basically the French fancy pants way of saying everything in its place. We've talked about how it's important that you get all your ingredients and everything you need together so that it comes together fast. I've done some of the work ahead of time so that you're not sitting there watching me talk and chop onions, because that's really boring, or grate cheese. So we're gonna get started. The very first thing I did was I took all my bread and I cut it into cubes. So maybe, bite-sized cubes. Really, you could cut it, you can tear it, whatever works best for you. I let it sit out all day so it dried out a little bit, because that just makes it soak up all the eggs and milk even better. So that's been done. I've grated all the cheese ahead of time. I diced up a bunch of the onions, but I wanted to show you how to dice an onion. This was something I just learned, a really cool way to do this. This is the end of the onion that all the roots grow. So if you leave that intact, it holds the onion together for you so that you can cut it. So basically you cut the onion in half, you cut off the end where the top comes out, and then you turn the onion this way facing you using claw. Remember, we talked about holding it so that your knuckles are exposed, not your fingertips, because you can't, if you keep the knife up this way, you can't cut yourself, whereas if you do this, you can, and trust me, I have done that. So basically you're holding the onion with your claw, you're making cuts in it almost up to the end, or in that case, I cut it right off, so we'll disregard that. Then you turn it sideways, and then all you do is chop it, just like that. Gives you a nice even dice on your onion, and then you've got this little bit left over at the end, so you just kind of cut around the core, and there you have it. One chopped, easy peasy chopped onion. And I'm going to just chop this up so that it gets in there too. Now, if you're like my daughter and you don't really like onions, you can leave them out and put in onion powder instead. Some people don't like the way they feel in their mouths. I used to be like that when I was a kid. Never did like the way they feel. So we've got the onions are chopped. The bacon is cooked. You can use ham, you can use crumbled sausage. I like Italian sausage, it's really good. And then we're gonna crack our eggs. So the recipe calls for 6 eggs. Now remember, we talked about cracking them into a container first so that you don't get eggshells in whatever it is you're cooking, because I always end up doing that. So we're gonna crack the egg, put it in the container, make sure there's no shell in it, and pop it in there. So 1, 2, 3. This is, if you're gonna do a big 9 by 13 pan, you should be able to feed. All right, that's 5, and last one is 6. So we're gonna put those in there. Now, I am going to get out my old-fashioned egg beater. This was my grandma's, believe it or not. If you don't have a whisk, you can use a fork, but I decided I wanted to use the egg beater for a change. This is great. It whips things up really, really fast. How many of you have ever seen? Okay, so now we're doing 2 cups of milk. Remember, the recipe says do not use skim milk, which is what I'm using because that's all I have. But I also have cream. So I'm mixing it with cream and milk together. So you can do that. So we're gonna pour 2 cups of milk into, okay, now it's 7 o'clock. So everybody's, you know, out congratulating our frontline health workers, which is important to do. That's great if you're out taking part in that. So we've mixed together the eggs and the milk. Crashed over with that. We are going to put in a little mustard, about a teaspoon of mustard, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. See if you can say that one. Worcestershire. Leon Perrins is what I call it, even though that's not Leon Perrins. Hot sauce. Just a touch. Put that in there. Give it another mix up. Get that. Okay, so that's your liquid all ready to go. Now what we're going to do is we've got our bread over here. We're going to put in the onions. We are going to mix in the bacon. You can put in as little or as much as you like. And we are going to put in a couple cups of cheese too. This is sharp cheddar, marble. So it's got lots of good flavor. A couple cups of that. And then we're going to mix that up. Oopsie, try not to make too much of a mess. Mix that all together. So, needs some pepper. Everything needs salt and pepper, I think. I like a lot of pepper, so we're going to put that in. We're going to put in a good teaspoon of salt. That's how I measure. And then we're going to pour our milk and eggs all over this. And then mix it all up. The key to making this really successful is to letting it absorb some of the milk and eggs before you pour it into your baking dish. So ideally, you let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes. Is a great way. Now you can actually, the nice thing about this is you can let it sit overnight too. There's a variation on this called Christmas morning wife saver. It's a really old sexist way of saying things. And because you make it up the night before and bake it in the morning. So you need a greased pan. If you don't grease your pan, it's gonna make a hot mess. Paper towel, butter, unless you happen to have cooking spray. I like the flavor you get from butter. So you give your pan a really good grease. Lots of yummy butter in there. That goes around like that. Then you mix this up some more. You can see it's starting to absorb all the liquid. So we're gonna let that. Now I'm just gonna pour it in here so that you guys can see what it looks like. I'll bake it later after it's had a chance to sit. So then you just pour it into your dish like this. If you've got parchment paper, you can line your dish with parchment paper instead of greasing it. That makes it easy to clean up. Put all that yummy bacon in there. Okay. So that, my friends, is all you have to do. It's done. Now it goes into the oven. You bake it 350 degrees 45 minutes to an hour. The way you tell it's done is if you put a knife in the middle and it comes out clean, so there's nothing on the knife. If you, let's just say for the sake of argument, you do this, you can see there's stuff all over the knife. You don't want that. You want the knife to come out and you want it to look like that, which will tell you that it's cooked. When it's finished, thanks to the magic of television and the fact that I made this morning, this is what it will look like. So that's your finished strata. I made this one this morning. It's got leeks and Swiss cheese and vegan bacon in it, vegan bacon bits. It's not a vegan dish because it's obviously made with eggs and cheese, but there you go. That's what it looks like finished. Really, really good. You can eat it cold if you want, eat it hot. So take a picture of what you've done. Let us know what ingredients you used to create it. Peppers, mushrooms, sausage, bacon, ham, different kinds of cheese, whatever suits your fancy, whatever you've got in the fridge. It's a great way to clean things up. So I hope you enjoy that. Let us know how it turns out, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.